Hagerstown, Maryland one day, and I seen a sign that said Neil Superior's School of Pro Wrestling. And I locked up the brakes and whipped the truck into the parking lot so fast, I think 2 miles of traffic behind me got surprised and probably got run off the road. I pulled into the parking lot. There was a sign on the door that says, if you want to train to be a pro wrestler, be here on Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock. And it just happened to be a Tuesday, and I ran that route so fast. Got back to Martinsburg after I finished running my route, clocked out, didn't say goodbye to nobody, ran home, grabbed some sweatpants, and went over to Hagerstown and showed up at the gym, and that's where I met Neil Superior. Neil was actually the last champion at South Atlantic Pro Wrestling. He was from Hagerstown, and after South Atlantic folded, he moved back home to Hagerstown and opened up the school. He had done a little bit of stuff with WCW and had talked to him about possibly going to work there, and he hadn't heard back from him for a while and opened up the school, and then about a month after he opened up the school, they contacted him. But he decided to go ahead and stick with what he was doing. At that time, his father was promoting shows in Guam and Puerto Rico. They were taking people like the Fantastics, the Rock and Roll Express, Tom Brandy. I believe when Neil was in Puerto Rico, he was living with Gangrel, Tom Brandy, and a couple others. So it's really neat when I run into some of those guys on the road and I walk up and tell them that I was actually one of Neil's last students before he passed away.
In other interviews that I've talked to people that's been in the business on the independent scene for quite some time, they all say one thing, and that was, you know, training for me was kind of rough. They beat the hell out of me for however long they beat the hell out of them, and then they would teach them how to bump and all that. Was that the way that it was for you also?
When I started training there, Neil just run the devil out of us inside the ring, and when he talked to you, he would chop you. Obviously, I can't really describe it over the phone, but get online and look up Neil Superior. And that man had muscles in places that most people don't even have places. But while he was talking to you, he would chop you. And if you cringed or you tried to cover up, he'd chop you harder. But if you stood there and took it, eventually he wouldn't chop you so hard. And I watched guys that would, you know, as he was talking to him, he would chop them, and I'd see him flinch, and then the next one would be a little harder. So I learned not to flinch so much. But Neil was a super nice guy outside of the ring. Inside the ring, he would beat on you a little bit. He wanted to make sure that you could take it. Neil was trained by Aho, the Wild Samoan, so imagine my surprise and my enjoyment when I found out that the man that was training me was trained by one of my childhood heroes. Some of the first shows I was wrestling on had people like Axel Rotten, Raven, back when he was Johnny Polo, right before he started wrestling as Raven, Tom Brandy, Marty Jannetty had just come out of the WWF, Matt Bourne come out of the WWF and was still doing Doink the Clown, Jimmy Snuka, Jim Neidhart. I mean, I was on shows with some of the biggest names in wrestling. My first match was in Boonesboro, Maryland, and I'm on a show with, gosh, I think Jimmy Snuka was on that show, and Marty Jannetty maybe. I can't remember right off the top of my head. I'm looking out here in this auction barn where we're running the show, and the place is filled up. There's 500-600 people. Then I moved to the South, and things weren't quite the same down here.
Like, how did they change? What was different about it?
Well, for one, you know, I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. I'm going to probably piss some people off today, okay?
Okay.
But I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I speak my mind. People at least know where I stand. When Dick Kirikoff, Neil's dad, promotes a show, he promotes it. He puts posters out. He finds places to help sell tickets. They'll get the students to help sell tickets. That's how people were, in essence, earning their spot to be on the show. You had to go out and help do some legwork. You had to go out and help promote. You had to help set up the ring. You had to help set up chairs. You were learning even though you thought it was manual labor. And that's something today that anybody that I train, they have to help with the ring. They have to help with the chairs. But I've seen guys come from other places. They don't do that. They think they're above doing that. John Schuyler has taken 2 tours of England, and they make them help set up and tear down the ring before and after every show. And one of the things John told me when he was on his first tour was he was glad that I taught him how to set up and tear down the ring. I'll tell you somebody else that will still help him set up and tear down the ring is Zane Riley. Zane Riley will do that. Zane Riley is just a super guy all the way around anyhow, but I've been at shows before where Zane Riley would put his bag down and come over and just grab a piece of the ring. There are some guys who will stand there and think that it will just magically disappear and end up back on the trailer. As far as the difference between promotion shows, when I first moved down here, guys would stick up one poster in the building that they were running in, and that was it. And they gathered the 10 people that they promoted to. It was a culture shock as far as not necessarily anything other than the way things were promoted. To this day, I've got a promotion that I will go make an appearance for every now and then, Championship Pro Wrestling. They're based out of Martinsburg, West Virginia, where I'm from, so kind of a hometown type thing. But the promotion up there and the promotion down here is a little different. And, of course, now with Facebook and everything like that, there's some people that think that's all they have to do. You know, I promote the WrestleForce shows here in the West Columbia area, and we still have the posters that go out in the gas stations. And anywhere that will let us hang up a poster, there's a poster hanging in the window somewhere. The bar that we're running the show at is a little bar called The Hanger. There's posters hanging up all inside the bar. They're on the events advertised on the sign out front. You can get tickets there at The Hanger. 1832 Airport Boulevard, Sunday night, December 28th, bell time at 5 o'clock. Doors open at 4. Come out and check it out. Little shameless plug there. But I've gone to other shows, and let's take the town of Gaffney, for instance. We just went to a show there. A couple of my friends were on a show. I didn't have a whole lot to do. So the girlfriend and I took a road trip, and I told her as soon as we pulled into the town, I said, I want you to look for a sign that's promoting pro wrestling tonight. And I want you to tell me when you see the first sign. I did not see the first sign until I pulled into the skating rink. Now, I'm not trying to bust on anybody that's running that particular promotion. I'm just saying that's the fact of what I've seen. Now, 2 weeks ago, Trans-South ran an event in Clinton, South Carolina, or Lawrence, South Carolina, with Ricky Regal, but they promoted the heck out of the show. Ricky Regal knows exactly what he's doing. He's been doing this for a long time. And, you know, he's got Trans-South with him now. And they drew a heck of a house because they went out and promoted the damn show. Some people want to walk around and say that they're the promoter. They want to carry a clipboard, but they forget that this is a business. And in the business, you try to make money. And that's something I think people, for some reason, are scared of. They just want to walk around and say, I'm a wrestling promoter. Or they book a show because nobody else will use them, and they'll go to the ring 7 damn times in one night out of a 10-match show. It's ridiculous. They don't understand that less is more. But, you know, it's their show. If that's what they want to do, then by all means, go ahead. Then you're only going to draw 50 people one show, and then your next show, you're not going to draw 50 people. Because what's going to happen is the 50 people that came this time got so burned out, or they got fed up with a bad wrestling show. And I'm not talking about one show in particular. There's a lot of promoters like this that they burn up the town. And it makes it hard for people that go out there and try to do it right. I'm going to use Zane Riley for an example. Let's say that Zane Riley ends up, you know, taking a booking for one of these bad promoters. I don't think Zane Riley is a bad wrestler. I think Zane Riley is very talented. He's very entertaining. But let's say Zane is on the poster for a bad show. Somebody comes out to that show, and they just happen to remember Zane. Well, the next time he's in town for a good promoter. People are going to remember Zane Riley, and they're going to say, you know what? I like him, but I don't want to go back and see the rest of that show. Because the good all of a sudden get associated with the bad, and it hurts the rest of us. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely it does. Carolina Independent Wrestling Report will be right back, right after this.
Being a dad can be tough.
No. What do you mean she's not coming?
When's the fairy princess coming?
Any minute now.
But when you're willing to do anything...
It is I, Cruz Zinkelbell. Okay, time for cake.
It's always worth it.
I know it's really you, Drew. I'm just pretending for the other kids.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
This is Bryce Anthony. And this is Boomer Payne of the Sons of Steel.
It's the one, the only manager of champions, Joey Nuggs. You know me, right?
This is Kendall Slayer, and you're listening to the CIW Report, baby.
Hi, I'm Lewis Black, and I'm a big supporter of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and its mission to cure CF. People ask me, Lewis, what's your personal connection to CF anyway? Well, I don't have one. I'm just passionate about finding a cure. Every year, thousands of people participate in Great Stride, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's national walk to raise funds for CF. We spend hours wandering around for no reason. Why not walk to save lives? I'm not asking you to run, because I wouldn't ask you to do anything I wouldn't do. And actually, I don't do much walking, because after a long day of yelling and screaming about stuff, I have to lie down and rest up for the next day of yelling and screaming. Don't make me yell and scream more than I have to. Just walk with us. As a matter of fact, walk over to your computer right now and visit cff.org and sign up for Great Strides today. You'll make a difference. Support the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and help make CF stand for Cure Found.
Now to more of our interview from this week's featured guest on the CIW Report. We will get back to the promotion in Gaffney in just a second. I want to talk to you a little bit about your training school now.
Okay.
When you came through training, things were done differently then. Do you still keep true to what you learned and how you learned it when you train your students, or do you defer from that in any way?
You know, I've added to that. What I recommend guys do, and guys that are in the business now, go take a training seminar with Les Thatcher or Tom Pritchard. Those guys, they've trained guys that work for the WWE. If that is what you aspire to do, go find out from them exactly what WWE is looking for. And I've been to some of those training seminars. Greg Price does a Mid-Atlantic Fan Fest. They've used my ring for the last couple years for the shows and for the training seminars. I've taken Les Thatcher's seminar in Las Vegas for the Cauliflower Alley Club. You know, I know I'm not the greatest athlete, but I do pick up to a lot of the psychology, and I learned a lot from Les Thatcher, maybe not necessarily from being in the ring with him, but from watching him in the ring while he's doing these training seminars. And, I try to take things that I've picked up from those and pass those on to guys as well. And I tell guys, you're going to continue to learn even after you come out of the training school. You never stop learning. The day you stop learning is the day you have stopped caring, which means that's the day you should sell your boots and not wrestle anymore. If you don't want to treat this like a business, if you don't want to do anything to try to make money and try to be the best that you can be, you may not be the absolute best on the show, but be the best that you can be and do your best to take care of the people that did what you asked them to do by buying a ticket to come watch you do what you do. That's all anybody really can ask of you.
How many students have you trained over your time of training wrestlers?
How many have I completed training with, or how many have come through and quit? I've had a handful of guys that they just can't handle it. 2 or 3 weeks, and they just realize, this isn't for them. I had one guy that tried to convince me that he had been to wrestling school, that he had actually wrestled on shows, but I'm just going to call it this like I see it. The dumbass tried to give me the name of promoters that I knew personally. And one of them happened to be a promoter that rents my ring. Well, I know the man's never been on any of his shows because the promoter rents my ring. I'm at all the damn shows. So he tried to convince me that he had wrestled for this promoter. So I finally convinced the guy to, look, quit trying to blow smoke up my rear end. Just be honest with me, and I'll be honest with you, and we'll get along just fine. He lasted a day. Some of these guys, they try to BS their way into it because they see it on TV and they think, oh, this is so easy, and the curtain's been pulled back so far, and they hear that the matches are predetermined, and I can act. Well, it's a little more than acting. And with the product people are seeing on TV or WWE, it's sports entertainment. That's not wrestling. That's not the wrestling that you and I grew up on. The wrestling that you and I grew up on is at the independent shows, or it's where it should be. And what's happening is a lot of these guys see something on a Monday night or a Friday night or a Thursday night or whatever night of the week, they're watching TV, and they think, oh, wow, that's so cool, I'm going to do it. They don't even try to be original. They just make it blatant that they stole something off TV. And it may